Good afternoon. Live from New Delhi, you're watching DD India News Hour, India's voice to the world. I'm Shubhendu Ghosh, coming up in the next hour. External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar calls old world order unrealistic, says power today has significantly spread across multiple dimensions. Israel strikes Beirut and Tehran as US says strikes on Iran to surge dramatically. In early rounds of vote counting in Nepal, Balan Shah-backed RSP leads in 60 seats, leads over CP and UML chairman and former Prime Minister KP Sharma Oli. India secures spot in T20 World Cup final after thrilling 7-run victory over England at Mumbai's Wankhede Stadium. India's External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar today asserted that the era of big deals between dominant powers is over, stating that global multipolarity is now an irreversible reality rooted in shared historical experiences. Speaking at the Raisina Dialogue 2026 on Author's Corner, the geometry of power, Minister Jaishankar said, expecting the world to remain frozen in the realities of 1945 or even 1989 was unrealistic. He noted that power today has significantly spread across multiple dimensions, moving beyond the control of a few select powers.
This was the order by the West, for the West, from the West. Now, it doesn't mean that others didn't use it. Smart people did, smart countries did. But when we look back at these 70 years, I think the expectation that we can freeze a 1945 or a 1989 forever was a very unrealistic one.
Finnish president also spoke at the session, stressing that the ongoing conflict showed the urgent need for a new multilateral moment. He added that the cost of current multipolar world is too high. Nations must come together to forge a new covenant for peace and security.
We come to what is the cost for peace and security. Well, we can see it right now. And this is what makes me so optimistic, that we're going to have this new multilateral moment. And so I try to see the silver lining and say, well, because we're seeing what's going on in the Middle East, we're seeing what's going on in Ukraine, we're seeing what's going on in Sudan, therefore we need to come together to some kind of a new covenant, because actually the cost of multipolarity is too high right now.
At Raisina Dialogue 2026, Minister of State for External Affairs, Kirti Vardhan Singh, reflected on the theme of samskara, assertion, accommodation, advancement. He said India's approach to global affairs is rooted in its civilizational wisdom, firmly asserting national interest, accommodating diversity through inclusive multilateralism, and advancing shared prosperity through technology and trade partnerships. The minister stressed that India's decisions are not guided by aligning with any single bloc.
India's decisions are guided by our national interests, not by aligning with any single bloc. This conviction is tested daily, from energy security to distant conflicts, where India consistently upholds autonomy while deepening partnerships. Assertion begins with sovereignty. Along our borders, we have made it clear that peace and tranquility are indispensable for normalcy in relations. The dignity of our citizens and the status of our frontiers are not variables to be traded.
Chief of Naval Staff Admiral Dinesh Kumar Tripathi was also present at the Raisina Dialogue. He highlighted India's commitment to Atmanirbharta, or self-reliance, in defense while actively collaborating with partner nations.
We in India obviously believe in Atmanirbharta and self-reliance, as are many other countries, and we deal with many our partner nations to develop capabilities in the defense sector based on co-development and co-production. We, as a country, are fully aware as to how to work with many partners.
And now DD India correspondent Akshay Dongre joins us live from Raisina Dialogue. Akshay, what is the direction in which the deliberations are headed at the dialogue? We're hearing about Global South and its concerns.
Well, Global South remains the central theme to the deliberation and discussion that are taking place right now, because any of the major conflicts that are taking place in the world, be it the Russia-Ukraine conflict that is not taking place though in the Global South, but it is having a lot of ramification. It is leading to a lot of ramification for the Global South, especially when you talk about the African continent, which depends on a lot of countries and a lot of supply chains for the delivery of food grains and other essential things that are required by people on day-to-day basis. If you look at South Asia, there are conflicts, minor conflicts taking place everywhere. There is a conflict taking place between Afghanistan and Pakistan. Then there is the major conflict now that has erupted between Israel, US, and the Iranian regime. So it's quite unfortunate to see the kind of ramifications that these conflicts have, the supply chain problems have, all of the major problems that are there in the geopolitical realities of today have the biggest impact on the Global South, and that perhaps is the reason why it has become a central theme. It has become a key concern, not just for the countries of the Global South, but also for major democratic countries who are now voicing their opinion that more should be done as far as bringing a sort of building sort of a bridging gap between the civilizations, the people who live in the developing world, and the things that are required by them. So it is a major point of deliberation discussion. In fact, to the point of even United Nations Security Council being discussed, and the representation that even Global South should have as far as these important multilateral forums are concerned.
And is the Raisina Dialogue also reflecting on the current crisis in West Asia, given that it is in many ways a symptom of what is ailing present-day geopolitics?
Well, it is. It is. In fact, yesterday we had an Israeli delegation here at the Raisina Dialogue. In the evening, we had a minister from Israel talking about their side of the story, their concerns, their reason to initiate this conflict with the preemptive strikes that Israel and the US conducted on Iran, about the killing of Iranian Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei. So they gave their justification behind this conflict, behind starting this conflict using preemptive strikes. And today we also had the Deputy Foreign Minister of Iran here speaking about rather accusing Iran and Israel of tearing apart the UN Charter, of tearing apart international laws, of carrying out preemptive strikes without any kind of justifiable reason to begin the strikes and start a war that are having major ramifications for the region and to an extent to the global economy. And this is the short term we are talking about. In long term, the entire global economy is going to get engulfed in this conflict that is senseless, according to the Iranian government. That was not required. So the current geopolitical issues are being discussed. It's not just the Middle East crisis, but also the Russia-Ukraine war at length is being discussed as far as the leaders here from the European countries, the leaders here from Russian side, everyone are talking about their side of the story. So it can become an excellent platform where people can actually come together from these countries. India being one place which doesn't have any conflict with any of these major warring factions, warring sides, and all of these can come here as a neutral territory and discuss and deliberate and find solution to these problems on the dialogue table rather than on the on the field of war.
Akshay, thank you for joining us with those updates. Moving on, Defence Minister Rajnath Singh stressed that global order is undergoing a major shift where long-held assumptions and geopolitical structures are being challenged. Addressing the maritime conclave called Sagar Sankalp, Minister Singh focused on the world's oceans, saying that they are no longer just channels for commerce but are increasingly emerging as key centers of strategic power. Referring to current conflict situation in West Asia, Minister raised concerns that there is disruption or interruption in region surrounded by seas. It directly impacts the supply of oil, gas and energy.
बदलती ग्लोबल जियोपॉलिटिक्स के इस दौर में ओशंस एक बार फिर विश्व की पावर बैलेंस के सेंटर में आ गए हैं। ऐसे समय में एक मेजर मैरीटाइम नेशन के रूप में भारत का यह दायित्व है कि वह कॉन्फिडेंस, कैपेबिलिटी और क्लियर विजन के साथ लीडरशिप प्रदान करे। अभी चल रही मिडिल ईस्ट की स्थिति इसका मैं मानता हूं कि एक ज्वलंत उदाहरण है। आज जो वहां हो रहा है वह बहुत ही असामान्य है। आगे चलकर मिडिल ईस्ट में या हमारे पड़ोस में परिस्थितियां किस दिशा में जाएंगी, इस पर अभी कोई कॉन्क्रीट प्रेडिक्शन करना कठिन है। यदि हम स्ट्रेट ऑफ हार्मुज या पूरे पर्शियन गल्फ क्षेत्र को देखें तो यह विश्व की एनर्जी सिक्योरिटी का एक अत्यंत महत्वपूर्ण क्षेत्र है। जब इस क्षेत्र में डिस्टरबेंस या डिसरप्शन होता है तो उसका सीधा असर ऑयल और गैस की सप्लाई पर पड़ता है। यही नहीं, आज हम सप्लाई चेन डिसरप्शन केवल ऊर्जा क्षेत्र में ही नहीं बल्कि अन्य क्षेत्रों में भी देख रहे हैं। इन अनसर्टेनिटीज का सीधा प्रभाव इकोनॉमी और ग्लोबल ट्रेड पर पड़ता है।
And India correspondent Vishal Barasto joins us live from this conclave. Vishal, how is the question of maritime security articulated by India, by Defence Minister, when the expanding conflict in West Asia is disrupting the Strait of Hormuz and has in fact reached as far as the Indian Ocean?
Well, a very good afternoon to you, Shubhendu. Now, you heard the Defence Minister. He clearly mentioned that this is going to be the new normal because the things are going from bad to worse and there are multiple conflicts going. It all started off with the COVID-19, then Ukraine, Russia, and now we see that it has come to Indian Ocean. So the Defence Minister has clearly mentioned that India needs to stay prepared, and those who rule the seas rules the world, and that is why the Indian Navy in particular needs to play a key role, and especially the focus has to be on self-reliance from the buyer's navy to builder's navy, and India aims to be in the top 10 by 2030 and in the top 5 by 2047. For this, we have to focus on shipbuilding because it is not only affecting the energy sources across the world, it is also affecting the economies across the world, and that is why it's the matter of great concern, and India needs to focus very hard on the self-reliance of its economy, of its navy, and also on building partnerships across nations, because India has always believed in the vision of Sagar, which was strategic and mutual growth across regions, to now mutual and holistic growth for across all regions. And this was propagated in 2015 by our Prime Minister, and now Sagar has become Mahasagar in 2026. So India is focusing more on East Africa, the South Indian and Southeast Asian nations, and the developing countries. And India wants to be the partner, equal partner with all these countries. Shubhendu.
Right, Vishal, and a little more on how this conclave, Sagar Sankalp, is looking at India's priorities in the larger maritime domain.
Well, India's priorities are very much clear when we talk about this specifically. This seminar, the Defence Minister has clearly mentioned out that India now has to become a major partner in global peace, and for that we have to be a very strong nation which is relying on its forces, which is self-reliant. And for this, he also mentioned the figures. This year, we would 24-25 in the last fiscal, India had exported, when we talk about the defense production, about 29,000 crores. We are already exporting the guns, Akash surface to a defense system to countries like Armenia, and India has replaced Russia over there. And other potential buyers are Vietnam and Philippines as well. So India is focusing very, very hard, but for that the domestic sector has to play a major role, and we also have a figure of 1.5 lakh crores as far as the domestic industrial production defense is concerned. And now the defense sector, when we talk about the defense sector, the domestic sector has grown by leaps and bounds from 25%. Now the role of private sector is 50% around. So it is a thing of a great to be very proud of. And
Okay.
but still, the role of private sector.
There, Vishal Baristo, our correspondent, giving us updates on the maritime conclave underway in Delhi. Still to come on DD India Newshour. President Donald Trump hints that Tehran is reaching out to make a deal. Iran denies any such overture. EU Foreign Policy Chief Kaja Kallas says Iran is seeking to escalate the conflict in West Asia. Delhi Airport issued a travel advisory amid ongoing tensions in West Asia.
Geopolitics and trade deals. Economic challenges amid development. Hard work and the path to prosperity. It's the economy always. Between walkers, money is what money does and says. Supply creates its own demand. Between the bulls pulls and bears tears. When supply chains globalization and India rises to the podium. We'll get you centered with the economic brief at 8 p.m. every Thursday on DD India.
Welcome back. You're watching DD India News Hour. I'm Shubhendu Ghosh. The raging Iran war, which has spread across West Asia and beyond, entered its 7th day on Friday after Israeli forces announced next phase in the conflict and bombed Beirut's southern suburbs. Israel responded with airstrikes and sent ground troops into some Lebanese border villages, and it targeted Beirut's southern suburbs, saying it was striking Hezbollah's infrastructure. The Israeli military had earlier issued an unprecedented evacuation warning for the entire area. Israeli army said its military had destroyed more than 60% of Iranian ballistic missile launchers in the opening phase of its campaign in Tehran.
We have neutralized and destroyed more than 60% of ballistic missile launchers, a highly significant achievement that reduces harm to the home front and saves many lives. I am in continuous contact with American counterparts, including the chairman of the Joint Chief of Staff of the United States, General Dan Kane, and the commander of CENTCOM, Admiral Brad Cooper. We are fighting based on shared interests and values. In this war, shoulder to shoulder, they are true friends.
While Iran's elite revolutionary guards announced a wave of missile launches on Israeli commercial hub of Tel Aviv on Friday, the fresh attack comes after an earlier wave of explosions that caused blaze at a residential building in central Israeli city. And Iran is also targeting neighboring Gulf countries, including Bahrain and Qatar. Doha said its air defenses thwarted a drone attack targeting the U.S. airbase at Al Udeid. Qatar's Emir Sheikh Tamim bin Hamad Al Thani visited the National Command Center of the Ministry of Interior on Thursday. He was briefed on the country's crisis and emergency management system. While in Bahrain on Thursday, an Iranian missile strike sparked a blaze at main state-owned oil refinery. 2 hotels and a residential building in the capital, Manama, were also targeted. Meanwhile, the United Kingdom is temporarily withdrawing some staff and their dependents from its Bahrain embassy. U.S. President Donald Trump has hinted that Tehran was reaching out to the United States about making a deal. Trump touted the U.S. military actions in Iran, saying that they were destroying Tehran's missile and drone capability and that the Navy is gone 24 ships in 3 days, he says, as he called on Iranian diplomats to request asylum and help shape a better country. Trump's claims, however, are yet again rejected by Iranian Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi, who said that Tehran has not asked for a ceasefire. Araghchi said his country was prepared for any ground invasion, warning that such a move would spell disaster for the country's enemies. He added that they are waiting for the U.S. Tehran, however, made it clear that it had entered negotiations with Washington despite doubts about U.S. intentions, but was attacked before the agreed timeline for talks concluded. While the U.S. says the goal of its current military engagement with Iran is a regional transition that ensures West Asia no longer poses a global security threat. While EU Foreign Policy Chief Kaja Kallas said Iran is seeking to escalate the conflict in West Asia by attacking other countries in the region indiscriminately. Both NATO and EU had mechanisms enabling members to decide on whether they needed to call for help, but this had not been the case so far. Kallas said Iran had been considerably weakened and that she saw a chance for Iranian people to determine their own future. She also said EU was continuing to work through diplomatic channels to pursue de-escalation in the region.
Iran is indiscriminately attacking countries around, and really, I mean, today we had also a meeting with the Gulf countries who have been attacked and who have not done anything to attack Iran. Many of them have been supporting the diplomatic track and convincing for other countries also not to attack them. So what they are trying to do is to sow chaos as much as possible. And this is what we are seeing right now.
NATO has increased its alliance-wide ballistic missile defense posture following the intercept of a missile from Iran targeted at Turkey. The posture will remain at the heightened level until the threat from Iran's continuous indiscriminate attacks across the region subsides. The spokesperson of the Supreme Headquarters Allied Powers Europe said NATO had perfectly executed its missile defense in Turkey on Wednesday. It is to be noted that the United States has sunk more than 30 Iranian ships during the ongoing conflict, while ballistic missile and drone attacks by Tehran's forces are down substantially. Destroying Iran's ballistic missile capability and its navy are two of Washington's main stated goals for the mission against Iran, which the United States had dubbed Operation Epic Fury. Admiral Brad Cooper, who is the head of Central Command, which is responsible for U.S. forces in the Middle East, said Iranian ballistic missile attacks have decreased by 90% since day one. Drone attacks have decreased by 83% since day one.
Our strikes against the Iranian Navy have intensified. You may have heard the President say just a little while ago that we have sunk or destroyed 24 ships. That was true at the moment. We're now up over 30 ships. And in just the last few hours, we hit an Iranian drone carrier ship, roughly the size of a World War II aircraft carrier. And as we speak,
while U.S. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth said that Iran was making a mistake if it believed that United States could not sustain the ongoing war, adding that Washington had just begun to fight.
Iran is hoping that we cannot sustain this, which is a really bad miscalculation for the IRGC in Iran. If you think you've seen something, just wait. The amount of combat power that's still flowing, that's still coming, that we'll be able to project over Iran is a multiples of what it currently is right now when you add up our capabilities and those of the Israeli Defense Forces.
Apart from targeting Gulf countries, Iran has said that it will attack any ship trying to pass through Strait of Hormuz, a critical waterway for about a fifth of the world's oil and gas supply chain. Reacting to which, Israel's ambassador to the UN, Danny Danon, stated that Tehran's missile volume is declining and said its ability to disrupt the Strait of Hormuz will be severely diminished within days.
We are advancing. It is only a matter of time before the rocket fire is minimized and their capabilities are dismantled. Every day, their capabilities shrink. Every hour, we, together with the US, degrade, destroy, and dismantle their launch sites and stockpiles. The volume of missiles they are firing is already falling, and we are only 6 days in. They are getting weaker and weaker. Give us a few more days, it will be much, much harder for the Iranian to disrupt the vessels coming through the Strait of Hormuz.
The United Nations expressed concern over the global energy supply on Thursday, describing the situation as very, very worried. UN spokesperson Stefan Warwick warned that rising energy prices are directly hindering UN operations and humanitarian aid.
We all know as soon as the price of energy, of oil, of fossil fuels go up, it has a direct impact on just about everything, including UN operations. And where this is happening in a world that is still, sadly, very much addicted to fossil fuels, and we live in an era where we live at the mercy of energy that is being extracted far from homes. If you live outside of the Gulf, which is creating all sorts of risks. So it's something he's very much aware of.
Turkish President Tayyip Erdogan condemned Iranian drone attacks on Azerbaijan's Nakhchivan exclave on Thursday, warned Iran against damaging its ties with Ankara. He emphasized that while his nation has consistently pursued peace, no one should adopt a stance that undermines neighborly or brotherly relations. Earlier on Thursday, Azerbaijan said it was preparing retaliation after 4 Iranian drones struck its Nakhchivan exclave, injuring 4 people. Delhi Airport has issued a travel advisory amid ongoing tensions in West Asia. In its advisory, the airport said westbound international flights may face delays or changes in schedule. Passengers have been advised to contact their respective airlines for the latest flight updates before heading to the airport. The airport has also urged passengers to rely only on official communication channels for verified information. For any updates, the passengers can visit the official website. That's www.newdelhiairport.in. Sri Lankan Navy offloaded 208 crew members from a second Iranian vessel off the island's coast a day earlier, following a US submarine strike on first Iranian warship in the same region that left 87 people dead and several others missing. President Anura Kumara Dissanayake told a press briefing that the ship was near the port of Colombo in the country's exclusive economic zone, but outside its maritime boundary. The first ship, Iris Dana, was sunk on 4th of March, 19 nautical miles off Sri Lanka's southern port city of Galle. Video and photographs released by the Sri Lankan Navy show survivors being transferred from lifeboats onto stretchers at Galle Naval Base before being taken to hospitals in ambulances. 32 sailors were rescued and are being treated at the National Hospital in Galle. Meanwhile, Australian Prime Minister Anthony Albanese said on Friday that 3 of their defense personnel were on board a United States submarine that sank the Iranian warship with a torpedo in the Indian Ocean. He stressed that they did not take part in the attack. PM Albanese told Sky News Australians were on board as part of training linked to the AUKUS Defence Pact between Australia, United States and Britain. He also said no Australian personnel have participated in any offensive action against Iran. Australia, a close American ally, has ruled out any military role in the conflict, but has said it would support efforts aimed at preventing Iran from developing a nuclear weapon. Still to come on DD India Newshour. Prime Minister Narendra Modi hails this year's union budget, giving strong push to agriculture and rural transformation. 2 Indian Air Force pilots killed in Assam Sukhoi 30 crash. And Indian Navy's training ship INS Tarangini arrives in Colombo, Sri Lanka.
Nature is sounding the alarm, and when our ecosystems are under pressure, our lives are impacted too. In today's episode, we take a look at how these two are coming together to help us adapt and respond to a changing world.
When you conduct agriculture with Kadai cattle, you don't need to provide any extra materials or any other natural inputs to that field.
The AI does not see animals in the pictures, which then have to be found by humans. But also there are certain species, especially rare species, where we don't have a lot of pictures to train the AI, that the AI then cannot classify in turn.
Thanks to Santosha's information and awareness classes, that myth has disappeared. Now, if we encounter a dangerous snake like a cobra, we immediately call Santosh to perform a rescue.
Jharkhand will mesmerize you with majestic nature, rich heritage and colorful culture.
Johar. Johar. It fits perfectly.
Thank you.
You're watching DD India News Hour. I'm Shubhendu Ghosh. Our top stories. External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar calls old world order unrealistic, says power today has significantly spread across multiple dimensions. Israel strikes Beirut and Tehran as US says strikes on Iran to surge dramatically. In early rounds of vote counting in Nepal, Bal and Shah-backed RSP leads in 60 seats, leads over CPN UML chairman and former Prime Minister KP Sharma Oli. India secures spot in T20 World Cup finals after thrilling 7-run victory over England at Mumbai's Wankhede Stadium. Counting of votes is going on in every constituency of Nepal. By afternoon, Rabi Lamshane's Rashtriya Swatantra Party was leading in 60 constituencies. Gagan Thapa's Nepali Congress is leading in 9. KP Sharma Oli's UML is leading in 4 constituencies. Pushpa Kamal Dahal's party NCP is leading in 3 constituencies. Rajendra Lingden's party Rashtriya Prajatantra Party is leading in 1 constituency, and Harka Sampang Shram Sanskriti Party is leading on 1 constituency. Final results for 165 seats under first past post system is expected to be made public by today evening. And DD India correspondent Shweta Singh joins us live from Kathmandu, Nepal. Shweta, what is the latest from the counting of votes in Nepal? Is Rashtriya Swatantra Party maintaining its lead?
Yes, Shubhendu, you see, till now it's like more in 60 constituencies, RSP is leading, and there is huge crowd of onlookers at every gate of counting stations here. So people are really waiting for the evening when the final results will be out and they will know who has got the clear winning. So till now it appears that RSP is leading because Nepali Congress has been leading in 9 constituencies, UML in 4 and NCP in 3. So you see it's mostly like seeing the present status, it's RSP that is making good scores.
Shweta, if you can also put in context the significance of these elections, Nepal appears to be at a crossroads with the new political generation taking on the establishment.
Yes, Shubhendu, you see, this election is really historic because after the so many decades of old leaders that held the fort, that they were leading Nepal, now young generation wanted a change, policies for themselves. So I suppose this election is going to reflect the aspiration of these young people, these Gen Z youth who really sacrificed their life during September 8 and 9. They really turned up in huge number for voting this time. Not only youth, Gen Z, but it was even old people when we were seeing all the polling stations. It was old people and so huge line of women that were queuing. It was like at least in one queue there were 60-70 women in straight line that they were voting in every polling station here. So you see, voter turnout was 60. It's really good because Nepal is really dependent on remittance and huge number of Nepali people are abroad, and many turned out just to vote here for March 5 election. So many people whom I met had returned from USA and Europe to vote here in Nepal. So that was a massive step that Nepali people had taken to support democracy here in Nepal.
There, Shweta, appreciate you joining us with those updates from Kathmandu, Nepal. Moving on, Prime Minister Narendra Modi on Friday addressed a post-budget webinar on the theme Agriculture and Rural Transformation via video conferencing. The webinar brought together stakeholders across key sectors, including agriculture, animal husbandry, dairy, fisheries and rural livelihoods. The discussions focused on promoting high-value agriculture by unlocking the potential of crops such as cashew, coconut, sandalwood, almonds, walnuts and other. It also deliberated on opportunities offered by Bharat Vistar, the AI-powered digital public infrastructure for agriculture. Speaking during the webinar, Prime Minister focused on leveraging India's diverse agroclimatic zones to boost high-value agriculture with special emphasis on region-specific crops such as coconut, cashew, cocoa and sandalwood.
हमारे पास डाइवर्स क्लाइमेट है, हमें इसका पूरा फायदा उठाना है। एग्रो क्लाइमेटिक जोन, उस विषय में हम बहुत समृद्ध हैं। इस साल का बजट इन सब बातों के लिए अनगिनत नए अवसर देने वाला बजट है। प्रोडक्टिविटी बढ़ाने की दिशा तय करता है और एक्सपोर्ट स्ट्रेंथ को बढ़ावा देता है। बजट में हमने हाई वैल्यू एग्रीकल्चर पर फोकस किया है। नारियल, काजू, कोको, चंदन ऐसे उत्पादों के रीजनल स्पेसिफिक प्रमोशन की बात कही है। केरल के किसानों को अतिरिक्त लाभ हो, तमिलनाडु के किसानों को अतिरिक्त लाभ हो, इसलिए इस बार कोकोनट पर एक विशेष बल दिया गया है, जिसका फायदा आने वाले दिनों में हमारे इन किसानों को मिलेगा।
And Prime Minister also highlighted the immense potential of the fisheries sector, noting that increasing production could not only boost exports, but also transform the lives of rural fisheries communities and diversify rural incomes.
एक्सपोर्ट बढ़ाने में एक बहुत बड़ा फैक्टर फिशरीज सेक्टर का पोटेंशियल भी है। भारत दुनिया का दूसरा सबसे बड़ा मछली उत्पादक देश भी है। आज हमारे अलग अलग तरह के जलाशय, तालाब, ये सब मिलाकर लगभग 4 लाख टन मछली उत्पादन होता है, जबकि इसमें 20 लाख अतिरिक्त उत्पादन की संभावना मौजूद है। अब विचार कीजिए आप, 4 लाख टन से हम अतिरिक्त 20 लाख टन जोड़ दें तो हमारे गरीब मछुआरे भाई बहन हैं, उनकी जिंदगी कैसे बदल जाएगी। हमारे पास रूरल इनकम को डाइवर्सिफाई करने का अवसर है। फिशरीज एक्सपोर्ट ग्रोथ का बड़ा प्लेटफॉर्म बन सकता है। दुनिया में इसकी मांग है।
In other news, 2 Indian Air Force pilots were killed after a Sukhoi 30 MKI fighter jet crashed in Assam on Thursday night. The Air Force said pilots were identified as Squadron Leader Anuj and Flight Lieutenant Parvez Durakar. Indian Air Force personnel expressed condolences, said they stand firmly with the bereaved family in this time of grief. According to initial reports, the aircraft lost radar contact shortly after taking off from Air Force Station in Jorhat on Thursday evening during a routine training exercise. It is suspected that the crash occurred nearly 60 kilometers from Jorhat. Defence Minister Rajnath Singh expressed his condolences to the bereaved families. He said their courage and service to the nation will always be remembered with pride and gratitude. Minister Singh assured that the nation stands firmly with them in this hour of grief. India's Home Minister Amit Shah today attended the 57th Raising Day ceremony of Central Industrial Security Force or CISF at Kharavela Regional Training Centre in Odisha's Cuttack. Addressing the gathering, Minister Amit Shah said CISF has played an important role in eliminating Naxalism in several parts of the country.
नरेंद्र मोदी सरकार का एक संकल्प कि 31/3/2026 हम इस देश को नक्सलवाद से मुक्त कर देंगे और उसमें भी सीआईएसएफ का बहुत बड़ा योगदान है। उड़ीसा हो, छत्तीसगढ़ हो या तेलंगाना हो, सभी जगह पे सीआईएसएफ में नक्सल अभियान के उन्मूलन में एक प्रकार से अपनी भूमिका निभाई है।
India's representative at the United Nations, P. Harish, briefed a group of 77 and China on the outcomes of AI Impact Summit held in New Delhi last month. The briefing was held alongside the UN Secretary General's envoy on technology, Amandeep Singh Gill. During the meeting, India highlighted the vision of Prime Minister Modi for responsible artificial intelligence through the Manav framework. India reiterated that AI should be treated as a global common good, promoting a human-centric approach that benefits societies across the world. Indian Navy's sail training ship INS Tarangini arrived in Colombo, Sri Lanka on Friday after completing an ocean sailing training passage with trainee officers from Sri Lankan Navy. The vessel had sailed from Trincomalee, where Sri Lankan trainee officers embarked for practical seamanship training at sea. Despite the dominance of modern warships, sail training ships continue to play an important role in naval training, helping officers learn navigation, teamwork and leadership. The ship will remain in Colombo until March 9th as part of India's Maritime Outreach initiative aimed at building bridges of friendship. India and Japan are strengthening their defense cooperation through a joint military exercise in Uttarakhand. The 7th edition of the India-Japan joint exercise, Dharma Guardian, is currently underway at Foreign Training Center in Chaubatia in Almora district, Uttarakhand.
The 7th edition of the India-Japan joint military exercise, Dharma Guardian, is currently underway at the Foreign Training Center in Chaubatia village of Uttarakhand's Almora district. Around 120 personnel, each from the Indian Army and the Japan Ground Self-Defense Force, are participating in the exercise aimed at strengthening coordination and joint operational capabilities in semi-urban environments. As part of the drills, troops are carrying out tactical activities, including establishing operational bases, intelligence and surveillance operations, setting up of vehicle checkposts, and conducting cordon and search operations. The exercise focuses on enhancing interoperability and sharing operational experiences between the two forces.
India-Japan Joint Military Exercise Dharma Guardian का ये 7th edition उत्तराखंड में चौबटिया के
The 7th edition of India-Japan Joint Military Exercise Dharma Guardian is being held in the Chaubatia area of Uttarakhand at the Foreign Training Node. The exercise began on 24th February 2026 and will continue until 9 March 2026. In this joint military exercise, company contingents, one each from both India and Japan, are participating with great enthusiasm. The troops are undergoing training focused on semi-conventional operations in a semi-urban environment. The main objective of this exercise is to enhance interoperability and jointness between the armed forces of India and Japan. It also aims to facilitate the sharing of best practices and operational experiences while helping both sides refine their tactics, techniques, and procedure.
तथा अपने tactics, techniques और procedures को और refine करना है.
Military officials say such joint exercises will also strengthen mutual trust and understanding between the armed forces of India and Japan. According to senior army officials, the exercise, which will continue until March 9th, signifies growing defense cooperation between India and Japan and their commitment to regional security.
And still to come on DD India Newshour. Finland President Stubb endorses India for permanent UNSC seat. Walid Regragui stepped down as Morocco coach on Thursday, only months ahead of FIFA World Cup. And Kullu district of India's northern state of Himachal celebrates unique Fagli Festival. watching DD India News Hour. I'm Shubhendu Ghosh. Finland's President Alexander Stubb makes a strong pitch for India's elevation as a permanent UNSC member. In an interview with DD India, he calls for a New Delhi moment to rival San Francisco moment of 1945, which led to the creation of the United Nations.
I agree with Prime Minister Modi, and that's why in my speech yesterday I made two proposals. One is that the UN Security Council permanent members should be reformed. We need two from Africa, two from Asia, and one from Latin America. And more specifically, I think India has a self-evident place as a permanent member, as the most populous state in the world. And the second proposal I made was to revisit what we used to call a San Francisco moment when the UN was founded. And now we need a New Delhi moment. So get the world leaders here to India to discuss not how we can abolish the UN, but how we can reform the UN. We need that jolt because we now see both local and regional conflicts on the rise.
And Finnish President Stubb also says it is time for the world to pay heed to the Global South.
We need to share power. That's the whole idea. I think the United Nations, when it was created in 1945, was created pretty much in the image of, if not the West, at least the victors of World War II. Now we don't live in the world of 1945. The power balance has tilted. And I think both the demography, economy, and at the end of the day, technology will be in the hands of the Global South. So if we want to save the multilateral world order, we need to share power and give agency more equitably.
And you can watch the full interview at 8:30 p.m. on DD India tonight. You're watching DD India News Hour. Time now for all the action from sports. The defending champion India eyes third T20 World Cup as they made it to the final for the fourth time, this time defeating England in the semi-finals on Thursday. India will face New Zealand in the finals on Sunday. Youngster Jacob Bethel's maiden ton went in vain as the excellent fight by England could not cross the huge total of 253 runs by India, losing 7 wickets as the Indian bowlers showcased a brilliant defence. Sanju Samson's scintillating 89 of 42 laid the platform for India to pile up a massive 253 runs against England in the T20 World Cup semi-final in Mumbai. The in-form opener, who made 97 not out against West Indies in the previous match, hit 7 sixes and 8 fours to thrill a raucous home crowd at the famous Wankhede Stadium. Walid Regragui stepped down as the Morocco coach on Thursday, only months ahead of the FIFA World Cup 2026, ending weeks of speculations around his future. He took Morocco to the World Cup semi-finals in Qatar in 2022 and was also at the helm of affairs in January when Morocco lost in the finals of the Africa Cup of Nations. Mohamed Kouabi will take over as the new coach of the Morocco national football team. He was in charge when Morocco won the Under-20 World Cup in Chile last year. And US President Trump welcomed the Argentine soccer superstar Lionel Messi and his Inter Miami team to White House on Thursday. Messi entered the East Room alongside Trump and Inter Miami co-owner Jorge Mas later handed the president a signature Miami pink soccer ball. Trump also received a Miami jersey and a watch from Mas, the head coach Javier Mascherano. Miami lifted the 2025 MLS Cup on December 6, defeating Vancouver Whitecaps 3-1 in Fort Lauderdale, and the Argentinian superstar was named the league's MVP for the second consecutive season. Tottenham Hotspur's relegation worries grew after a 3-1 home defeat to Crystal Palace in the Premier League on Thursday. Dominic Solanke gave Tottenham the lead in the 34th minute, but the game changed when defender Mickey Van de Ven was sent off for a foul on Ismaila Assar, who scored the penalty to equalise. Crystal Palace then took control. Organ Strand Larsen scored before half-time and Sarr added his second goal after an assist from Adam Wharton. The defeat leaves Tottenham just above the relegation zone. Residents of a village in Himachal Pradesh's Kullu district celebrated a unique traditional festival that blends folklore, ritual and vibrant performances. The annual Fagli Festival was marked in Rumsu village of Kullu district, where artists wore colourful masks, costumes made of grass, performing traditional dances.
Rumsu village in the scenic Kullu district of Himachal Pradesh was transformed into a vibrant cultural spectacle on Thursday as artists donned masks and costumes made from grass to celebrate the annual Fagli Festival. The festival is rooted in local folklore about the defeat of a demon believed to have once terrorized the region.
जो हमारा फागली जो फंक्शन है वो
Our Fagli festival is usually celebrated during the month of February and March. The reason for celebrating it is the link to the belief that the demon Tonya Rakshas and Timber Chachak come and join the divine household during the Fagli festivities. So to please and appease these spirits, the Fagli festival is observed. The Mukhota dance is especially dedicated.
है ये मुखौटा डांस स्पेशली उन्हीं को डेडिकेटेड है.
The Fagli festival commemorates the victory of good over evil, with villagers performing ritual celebrations to mark the return of harmony and prosperity. The festival also marks the end of winter in the region and the onset of the warmer spring season.
That's all in this edition of DD India News Hour. Let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. For those on the go, you can get all the latest news and updates from India and across the world on DD India mobile app. This app is available on both Android and iOS. You can scan these QR codes on the screen to download now. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Shubhendu Ghosh from all of us here in Delhi. Thanks for watching DD India News Hour. Namaskar.